we are stating it that it is allowing a lot of disparities now that many Ugandans are offloading goods in Kenya, are offloading them in Tanzania, are offloading them in Congo, and the government itself is promoting smuggling. Because there is no way you will let Uganda pay approximately 650 million per a single container because of taxing in kilos, yet it is at 250 million in any other countries. You are leaving a range of about 400 millions as room for smuggling. We have talked to the president, we have talked to the officials at the Ministry of Finance, and they tell us this is a tax for the president. I stood before the president in State House and asked him whether it is really his tax. The president said, that is my tax because I want to promote local industries. So this is a policy that has killed the business and brought about a lot of disparities. You can imagine the same time you are phasing out second-hand cloth is the same time you are charging taxes in kilos on garments and textiles. As if you wished people to pass naked. It renders prices very high in the region if Ugandans were not bold enough to smuggle, in quotes. Therefore, Mr. Chairman and members, this is an area where we wish members to help us and tell the president, convince the president together with us and URA to remove the charging of taxes in kilos because it is a big menace. The income tax amendment views have been presented almost all, and we are in agreement with the main positions as presented by Uganda Manufacturers Association. We also have had issues to do with the mobile money agents and all this mentioned, and we are concurring with the position of the Uganda Manufacturers Association to that effect. What is very important to emphasize, Mr. Chairman, here is on the value-added tax. Issues have been mentioned, honorable members, about the threshold and how the application of VAT and the IFRIS is disturbing the business community. The proposed 250 millions as threshold still remains so low, and it's going to give a very huge burden to Uganda Revenue Authority to implement the IFRIS. We are no longer fighting the IFRIS as a whole, but we request that for administrative adherence to the policies and guidelines, we think that the threshold for VAT registered companies mandatorily go for not less than 500 million as the bare minimum. This will give URA and the taxpayer easy time to manage. As we are speaking, the amounts implied in case you didn't pay or transact in IFRIS is 100%. If you had to pay 50 million, you double, it's 100 million. It is very restrictive, and people will find ways of dodging. So the better way is to target those that don't feel it, and those are the formal companies whose threshold is higher. I thought this I would emphasize. Also, maybe for consideration, Uganda is also disadvantaged, especially my majority of members, who approximately 3 million members, the majority of them are importers. So the VAT rate has in the East African community remained imbalanced because Kenya is 16, Uganda has persistently remained at 18, and there are ways that we are being marginalized in competitiveness.
The other one that I need to talk about.
But do you mind mentioning how you're marginalizing competitiveness because of those rates?
Because we are all importing from the same sources, and if your taxes are calculated at 18% and the others at 16%, definitely there is a difference, a margin of 2% that goes to the one with the lower VAT rate. That does not need much explanation, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yes.
Supposing you...
Can I continue, Mr. Chairman?
You continue.
So, the other one, Mr. Chairman, because most of them have been deliberated on clearly, for example, the stamp duty, I have nothing much to say. I can only now go to the issue that is very, very important and has been mentioned by the previous speaker, and this is the matter of second-hand clothing and the proposal to increase the surcharge from 15 to 30. Second-hand clothing is an option in the interim because through a report that we made with the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, we found out that the total capacity of all manufacturing companies in the textile industry in Uganda can satisfy the demand by only 3%. And what has been substantive...
Chairman, maybe just like your colleagues,
yes,
you can mention to the committee whether you were consulted during this process by the Minister of Finance.
We were consulted. I wouldn't say we weren't, but you know, it is a diverse section. Like I belong to KACITA, I belong to the PSFU.
So you consulted under which?
We are consulted under the PSFU, Private Sector Foundation Uganda. Thank you. So I was explaining that the second-hand taxes being increased from 15 to 30%. This is on top of the 35% import duty that is the CEO rate, the 18% VAT for Uganda, the 6% withholding tax, the 1.5 environmental levy. Now there is an intention to increase from 15 to 30%, which is a surcharge. By practical example, if you did this, you'd be adding 18 to 20 millions on every container of second-hand items. We are already operating under disadvantage because while a container being imported into Uganda directly costs between 140 to 150 millions, in Tanzania and Kenya it is around 80 to 90 millions. So the playing field in that area is not equal. Leaving that one aside, in Uganda we are already under restriction and we are doing this business under import quotas. The Minister of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives is already regularizing to eliminate second-hand products. And these people say, if you subject them to a new tax yet they are recouping to do other business, you will be depriving them of capital that they will use to go into other investments. So you are already licensing the second-hand dealers. Not every Tom and Dick now can import second-hand. And now you are also imposing a surcharge, which they see as a double punishment. The idea here is they should be left at the 15% surcharge so that they can be able to transit into other areas or areas. They are going to lose capital in the process, yet they are on the verge of crossing over to other industrial sectors. And this is coming at a time where I present a very, very related thing, Mr. Chairman and members. You have seen KACITA and the traders demonstrating for the last 5 years almost every year. And it has been because of the taxes levied on textile and garments in kilos. We sat in Nairobi some 3-5 years ago, and we agreed that according to the WTO requirement of the GATT valuation method of valuing goods, the maximum for all manufacturing companies, or for the common external tariff for all imports of textile and garments, the maximum would be 35% import duty. Any levy above that would be acting contrary to the GATT valuation agreement. We have stated this. We are stating it that it is allowing a lot of disparities now that many Ugandans are offloading goods in Kenya, are offloading them in Tanzania, are offloading them in Congo, and the government itself is promoting smuggling. Because there is no way you will let Uganda pay approximately 650 million per a single container because of taxing in kilos, yet it is at 250 million in any other countries. You are leaving a range of about 400 millions as room for smuggling. We have talked to the president, we have talked to the officials at the Ministry of Finance, and they tell us this is a tax for the president. I stood before the president in State House and asked him whether it is really his tax. The president said, that is my tax because I want to promote local industries. I gave him examples of how Kenya and other countries have supported their industries in the textile sector without this. And he said, I'm making final research to come back to you. I feel this is a dire opportunity to convince you that taxing clothes in kilos is not only illegal according to General Agreement on Trade and Tariffs as a WTO requirement, but it is a disservice for which nobody is earning. We met Uganda Revenue Authority a few days ago, and they were equally dissatisfied. You are going to meet them here. I implore Mr. Chairman to ask them about who is benefiting out of the charging of taxes on garments and textiles in kilos. The rest of the players are applying 35% as maximum, and Uganda is using either 30% or $3 per kg on garments and $2 for textiles. So this is a policy that has killed the business and brought about a lot of disparities. You can imagine the same time you are phasing out second-hand cloth is the same time you are charging taxes in kilos on garments and textiles. As if you wished people to pass naked. It renders prices very high in the region if Ugandans were not bold enough to smuggle, in quotes. Therefore, Mr. Chairman and members, this is an area where we wish members to help us and tell the president, convince the president together with us and URA to remove the charging of taxes in kilos because it is a big menace.